The rain fell relentlessly, a constant drizzle that blurred the dim streetlights into faint halos. Michael Carter's boots splashed through the puddles as he hurried down the sidewalk, his thoughts preoccupied with the dull ache in his back from hours of labor. He glanced at his watch, nearly 9 p.m. Emily would be waiting for him, probably already curled up in bed, her little head buried under the blanket, as she tried to fall asleep before her dad got home. He had promised her a story tonight. A good one. One that would make her smile. But the day had been long, and the evening was colder than usual. Michael's hand instinctively reached into his jacket pocket, his fingers brushing against the small toy he had bought for her, a stuffed bear, its fur a bit matted but with a smile that still managed to be charming. She would love it. She always did, even when it was something as simple as a new stuffed toy. But then, as he approached the bus stop where he normally waited for the late-night bus to take him home, something caught his eye, a figure huddled against the corner of the stop, her face obscured by a hooded jacket, her body motionless. Michael slowed his pace, his brow furrowing. It wasn't uncommon to see the homeless in this part of town, especially at night. But this was different. She was young, too young to be sitting like that alone, and as he came closer, he saw the unmistakable sign, a wheelchair beside her. Empty, abandoned, as if it had been cast aside without a second thought. Michael stopped. His heart skipped a beat. He approached her cautiously, unsure whether to say something, unsure of what he would even say. Her face was pale, drawn, with a hint of exhaustion etched into her features. But what struck him the most were her eyes. They were wide, yet unfocused, staring into nothingness, as if she were somewhere far away. "Hey," Michael said softly, his voice breaking the eerie silence. "Are you all right?" The girl flinched, startled by the sudden attention. She looked up at him, her eyes taking a moment to focus on his face. She was about to speak, but the words seemed to be stuck in her throat. After a long, painful pause, she finally managed a weak reply. "I'm fine," she whispered, her voice faint, strained, just waiting for the bus. Michael's eyes narrowed as he looked at her. She didn't look like she was waiting for anything, let alone a bus. The night was far too cold for that, and she seemed too weak to be out there at all. His instincts kicked in. Without thinking, he dropped to a knee beside her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder. "Come with me," he said, his voice steady, but his heart racing. "It's too cold to be out here. I'll take you home. You'll be safe there." The girl's eyes flickered with something Michael couldn't quite read, fear, relief, or maybe even a mixture of both. She didn't speak, but after a long, drawn-out moment, she nodded slightly. Michael helped her up, steadying her as she struggled to get her balance. Her legs seemed unresponsive, limp, like they hadn't been used in a long time. It wasn't the first time he'd encountered someone in a wheelchair, but this was different. This was urgent. "Let's go," he said, guiding her toward his car, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't know what he was getting himself into. He didn't know who this girl was, or what kind of life she had been living before this night. But one thing was clear. She needed help, and right now, that was all that mattered. Michael helped her into the passenger seat of his old car. It wasn't much, but it was his, and it was warm. He made sure she was settled, then walked around to the driver's side, his mind racing. Who was she? Why was she alone at this hour? And why the wheelchair? The streetlights flickered as he started the engine, the hum of the car offering a strange comfort in the quiet night. As he pulled out of the parking lot, he glanced over at the girl. She was staring out the window, her hands clenched in her lap as if she were holding on to something invisible. The silence between them felt heavy, thick with unsaid words. So, Michael finally broke the silence, trying to ease the tension. "What's your name?" The girl didn't answer immediately. Her eyes shifted toward him, but her expression was unreadable. She was hesitant, almost like she didn't trust him, and Michael couldn't blame her. It wasn't every day that a stranger offered to take you home. "Sophia," she said quietly. After a long pause, "Sophia Miller." "Nice to meet you, Sophia." "I'm Michael," he replied, his voice gentle. "Do you need me to take you anywhere specific?" Sophia shook her head slowly, her lips parting slightly as if she were about to speak, but the words never came. Her gaze drifted back to the window, the city lights blurring as they drove further into the night. Michael felt a pang of sympathy. He knew what it was like to be alone. He'd spent years raising Emily by himself, without the help of anyone else. But this felt different. This wasn't just a lonely person. This was someone who had suffered, someone who had been through something far worse than he could imagine. They reached his small apartment complex, tucked away in a quiet part of town, where the streetlights barely reached. Michael parked in the lot and got out to open the door for her. Sophia hesitated, looking down at her legs, her face tightening in something Michael could only interpret as embarrassment or shame. "Come on," he said, offering his hand. "You'll be okay." Sophia met his eyes, her lips trembling as she slowly placed her hand in his. Michael gently pulled her from the car and supported her as she tried to stand, her legs still uncooperative. Together, they made their way to the entrance of his apartment building, where the warmth of the hallway greeted them like a soft embrace. Inside, Michael led her to the spare bedroom, where he had set up a makeshift bed for her. It wasn't much, just a simple couch with some blankets. But it would do for the night. Sophia took a seat slowly, her eyes scanning the room, as if she were still unsure of her surroundings. "You can stay here as long as you need to," Michael said, trying to keep his voice light. "I'll get you some food. You must be hungry." Sophia nodded, but she didn't say anything. Michael hesitated, then left her alone for a moment to make a quick sandwich in the small kitchen. His mind kept racing. What was her story? How had she ended up at that bus stop? He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her than she was letting on. When he returned with the food, he found Sophia staring at her reflection in a cracked mirror on the wall. Her face was drawn, her expression distant. She hadn't touched the sandwich yet. "Are you okay?" Michael asked, his voice softer now, more concerned. Sophia turned to face him, her eyes welling up with unshed tears. For the first time, Michael saw the raw emotion beneath the surface, the pain, the hopelessness. It wasn't just physical suffering. There was something deeper. Something that had worn her down to the point where she couldn't even bring herself to speak. "I don't belong here," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't deserve your kindness." Michael's heart clenched. He hadn't expected this. He hadn't expected the weight of her words, the pain behind them. "Hey," Michael said gently, stepping closer to her. "Don't say that. Everyone deserves kindness, even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes." Sophia shook her head, her tears finally spilling over. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "I've been in this chair for months. I have nowhere to go. No one wants me." The words struck him like a blow to the chest. He had no idea what she had been through, but he could feel the depth of her suffering in every syllable. Michael didn't know what to say at first. All he knew was that he couldn't just stand there. He couldn't turn his back on her. "You're not alone anymore," Michael said, his voice firm but kind. "I'll help you. Whatever it takes." Sophia looked up at him, her eyes searching his face for any hint of sincerity. And for the first time since they met, she gave him a small, tentative smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Michael spent the next few days walking a fine line. He had his own responsibilities to juggle: Emily, work, bills, and now he was caring for Sophia, a stranger with a complicated past he had only begun to understand. But every time he saw her eyes, so full of vulnerability yet fighting to hide it, he felt a deeper sense of obligation. There was no way he could turn away. Sophia, despite her quiet nature, wasn't easy to read. She was reluctant to speak about what had happened to her, and that left Michael with more questions than answers. Every day, he tried to offer her some normalcy. He brought her food, helped her bathe, and slowly tried to help her regain some strength in her legs. But there was something else there, a sadness that lingered in the corners of her eyes, a fear she couldn't quite shake. One evening, after Emily had fallen asleep, Michael found himself sitting across from Sophia in the small living room. She was staring at her reflection in the mirror again, her hands nervously fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. Michael leaned back, trying to break the tension. "You know, you don't have to be alone anymore," he said, his voice calm but gentle. "You're safe here. I mean it." Sophia's lips trembled, but she didn't answer. It wasn't until Michael stood up to clear the dishes that she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know how to trust anyone anymore." He froze for a moment, his hand hovering over the sink. Her words were like a slap to the face, not because they were harsh, but because they carried so much pain, so much resignation. "You've been hurt, haven't you?" Michael asked softly, turning to face her. He could tell she wasn't ready to speak about it, but he couldn't ignore the aching truth in her eyes. Sophia looked down at her hands, biting her lower lip. I don't even know where to begin. I had a life before all of this. I used to go to college. I had friends, a future. And then, everything changed." Michael sat down beside her, giving her the space to speak, but also offering the comfort of his presence. "You don't have to tell me everything, Sophia. I just want you to know that you're not alone in this. I'm here for you." She glanced up at him, her eyes flickering with something, hope, maybe. Or was it disbelief? "My parents," she started, her voice cracking. "They told me I wasn't their responsibility anymore when I got sick. They left me. I thought maybe I could still manage. But the wheelchair, the way I can't walk anymore, it broke me. It was like they didn't even care enough to help me through it." Michael felt a pang of anger for her, but he didn't voice it. He wasn't there to judge, only to help. "You deserve better than that," he said softly. "No one deserves to feel abandoned like that." Sophia nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I've been on my own for a long time. I've been in shelters, on the streets. I had nowhere else to go until you found me." The weight of her words settled in the room, thick and suffocating. Michael felt a sharp pang of guilt, like he should have done more, should have seen more. "You didn't deserve that," he repeated, his voice a little firmer this time. Sophia bit her lip and finally looked up at him, as if she were truly seeing him for the first time. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice small. "You don't even know me. You have a daughter, a life. Why take on another responsibility?" Michael paused, considering her question carefully. He had thought about it a lot since she had arrived, but the answer was simpler than he expected. "I'm helping because you need it. And because, when I look at you, I see someone who hasn't given up. I see someone who's been knocked down, but still has the strength to get back up, and that's worth helping. Emily deserves to see what kindness and compassion look like, and I want to teach her that." Sophia's eyes softened, and she looked away, unable to meet his gaze for a moment. "I don't know how to live like this," she said quietly. "I don't know how to let someone in, to trust again. What if I'm just a burden to you?" Michael moved a little closer, careful not to crowd her. "You're not a burden, Sophia. You're a person who's been hurt, and you're trying to find your way. It's okay to lean on others sometimes. We all do. Even me." She looked at him, her eyes searching his face for sincerity. For the first time, Michael wasn't afraid to give her what she needed. Honesty. I'm not perfect, Sophia. I make mistakes. But I'll be here for you. You don't have to carry this alone. She nodded, a single tear escaping down her cheek. It wasn't just for the pain she had endured. It was for the quiet hope she hadn't allowed herself to feel in so long. I can't promise it will be easy, Michael continued. But I can promise that you won't be alone. Sophia gave him a small, shaky smile. It was the first real smile he'd seen from her since she'd arrived. And for a moment, he believed that maybe, just maybe, they both had a chance to heal. Days turned into weeks, and things began to shift inside Michael's small apartment. Sophia was no longer the quiet girl. Sitting in an empty room, she had slowly started to join family meals, share small stories with Emily. And sometimes, they would watch the cartoons Emily loved. These simple, peaceful moments were things Sophia had never allowed herself to hope for. Michael had restructured his life so that both of the girls could feel safe and comfortable, but he knew that wasn't permanent. Sophia still had a long road ahead, and so did he. 1 week passed. One evening, when Michael finished his shift earlier than usual, he came home to find Emily and Sophia sitting on the floor, playing a game that Emily had recently learned at school. Michael smiled as he watched them. Everything had changed so quickly. Emily was really bonding with Sophia, and it seemed like Sophia was finally starting to open up. "Hey girls, how's the game going?" Michael asked, his voice light and teasing. "Dad, me and Sophia won," Emily exclaimed, her eyes shining. "We beat the other team." Sophia, who had been laughing softly, looked up at Michael. "It wasn't that easy," she said. But there was a lightness in her tone that Michael hadn't heard before. Michael looked at Sophia and could feel the shift in her expression. "That's good to hear," he said, smiling. "I'm glad you're having fun." After dinner, when Emily had gone to bed, Michael and Sophia sat together in the living room. The silence between them was thick, but there was a strange comfort in it. "Thank you," Sophia said quietly, her gaze fixed on her hands, still unsure. "Thank you for giving me a chance. I don't know what I'd have done without you." Michael sat silently for a moment, not knowing how to respond. He understood that her words weren't just about gratitude. They were about letting go of a burden she had carried for so long. "Sophia, I haven't done anything special. You just need to know that I'm here, to help. Emily and I won't ever let you be alone again." She was silent for a long time, but finally, she looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice small. "You don't even know me. You have a daughter, a life. Why take on another responsibility?" Michael paused, considering the question carefully. He had thought about it a lot, but the answer was simpler than he expected. "I'm helping because you need it. And because, when I look at you, I see someone who hasn't given up. I see someone who's been knocked down but still has the strength to get back up. And that's worth helping. Emily deserves to see what kindness and compassion look like, and I want to teach her that." Sophia looked down at the floor, biting her lip, but Michael could see her eyes soften. "I don't know how to live like this," she whispered. "I don't know how to let anyone in. To trust again. What if I'm just a burden to you?" Michael moved a little closer, careful not to crowd her. "You're not a burden, Sophia. You're a person who's been hurt, and you're trying to find your way. It's okay to lean on others sometimes. We all do. Even me." Sophia looked at him, her eyes searching for sincerity. For the first time, Michael wasn't afraid to give her what she needed. Honesty. "I'm not perfect, Sophia. I make mistakes. But I'll be here for you. You don't have to carry this alone. My knight. My knight. My knight. She nodded, a single tear slipping down her cheek. It wasn't just for the pain she had endured. It was for the quiet hope she hadn't allowed herself to feel in so long. I can't promise it will be easy, Michael continued, but I can promise that you won't be alone. Sophia looked up at him, a small, shaky smile breaking through the walls she had built around herself. It was the first real smile he'd seen from her since she arrived, and for a moment, he believed that maybe, just maybe, they both had a chance to heal. A month passed. Sophia began more intensive treatment for her mobility. Michael took her to her therapy sessions every week, no matter how busy his work schedule was. He never complained, because he knew that each step she took, no matter how small, was a victory. But not everything was smooth sailing. One afternoon, as Michael was washing dishes, there was a sudden, forceful knock at the door. He quickly opened it, only to find a man standing on the other side, a man he never expected to see. "Michael Carter, is it?" the man asked, his voice cold and commanding. "Yes, I'm Michael." "Who are you?" Michael replied, trying to stay calm. "I'm Sophia Miller's brother," the man said, his tone stiff. "I'm here to take her home." Michael felt a sharp spike of tension in his chest. He had never heard Sophia mention any family, especially a brother. But he knew, whatever was happening now, it wasn't going to be easy. "Sophia is not an object that you can just take whenever you please," Michael said, his voice firm but calm. "She's a person, and she can make her own decisions." "You don't understand anything about my family," the man retorted, his eyes narrowing. "She's our responsibility. She'll be coming back with me." Michael stood there, facing the man, realizing that this was no longer just about helping Sophia, this was about protecting her. He wasn't going to let her be taken away by someone who didn't care for her like he did. Not again. The tension in the room was palpable. Michael stood firm, his hand resting on the doorframe, as the man Sophia's brother gazed at him with cold, calculating eyes. "I don't care what you think," the man said, his voice low and threatening. "She's my sister, and I'm taking her home. You've been playing the hero, but you don't understand what's really going on here." Michael's heart was pounding in his chest. He knew that this wasn't just about a family dispute, it was about Sophia's safety and well-being. He had promised her that she wouldn't have to face this alone, and he wasn't about to break that promise now. "You don't get to decide what happens to her," Michael said, his voice steady. "She's been through enough. She has the right to choose where she wants to be. And right now, she wants to stay here." Sophia's brother stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "You think she wants to stay with a stranger like you? You're just trying to feel good about yourself. But you don't know her, you don't know what she's been through. You're not her family." Michael didn't flinch. "I may not be her family by blood, but I'm here for her. I've been here for her, and I will continue to be. Whatever you think you know about her, you're wrong. She's not going anywhere with you." The man's gaze flickered to Sophia, who had been standing quietly behind Michael, her eyes wide. She hadn't said a word since her brother had arrived. But the pain on her face was evident. She didn't want to go with him. She didn't want to face her past. Not again. "Sophia," Michael said, his voice soft but firm, turning to look at her. "You don't have to go with him. You're not alone anymore. You don't owe him anything." Sophia's brother shot a glare at her, but she didn't flinch. She stood there, silently, the weight of his presence hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. "I can't do this anymore," Sophia whispered, her voice barely audible. "I can't keep running. But I can't go back either. Not to him." Michael looked at her, understanding flooding his chest. He didn't need her to explain further. The trauma was clear. Sophia's brother had abandoned her when she needed help the most, and now he was back, trying to take her away from the only place she felt safe. "Sophia, you don't have to go anywhere you don't want to," Michael said softly, his hand reaching out to her. "You've already found a home here." Sophia looked at her brother for a long moment, and for the first time, she spoke with a strength Michael hadn't seen from her before. "You left me. You abandoned me when I needed you the most. I don't owe you anything. I'm not going back." The silence that followed was deafening. The man's face darkened, but there was nothing he could say. The truth had been laid bare, and he knew he had lost. With a sharp, frustrated sigh, he turned away, his words cold as ice. "This isn't over, Sophia. Don't think you've won." He shot one last look at Michael before walking away, disappearing into the night. Michael watched him go, the tension in his chest slowly unwinding. He didn't feel victorious, though. What had just happened wasn't a battle won. It was a glimpse of what lay ahead for Sophia. A constant struggle to reclaim control over her own life. Sophia stood in the doorway for a moment, the weight of the moment heavy on her shoulders. Michael stepped beside her, offering her a silent comfort. He didn't need to say anything. He knew she was processing everything: the past, the present, and what her future might hold. Finally, Sophia turned to him, her voice low but steady. "Thank you, Michael, for not giving up on me." Michael smiled softly. "I told you before, Sophia. You're not alone anymore. And you're never going to be again." Sophia nodded, her eyes filled with unshed tears. "I don't know what's going to happen next. But for the first time, in a long time, I feel like maybe I can fight for myself." Michael placed a hand on her shoulder, offering a gentle squeeze. "You don't have to fight alone. We're in this together. And no matter what happens, I'll be here." The days following her brother's departure were quieter, but the weight of what had happened hung over them all. Michael knew Sophia wasn't truly free from her past just yet. The encounter with her brother had stirred something inside her, something raw and painful. The wounds weren't just physical. It was the emotional scars she had carried with her for so long, and now that they were being forced into the open, she wasn't sure how to heal them. But Michael couldn't just sit and watch her struggle. He had promised to be there for her, and he wasn't about to break that promise. He tried his best to provide normalcy, making breakfast, helping Emily with her homework, and offering Sophia a listening ear whenever she seemed ready to talk. One afternoon, as Michael sat in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup, he heard a soft knock on the door. He looked up, expecting to see the mailman or a neighbor. But when he opened the door, he found a woman standing there. Her posture was straight, her demeanor professional, but there was something in her eyes, a flicker of hesitation, that caught Michael's attention. "Hello," the woman said, her voice calm and measured. "Are you Michael Carter?" "Yes, that's me," Michael replied, narrowing his eyes slightly. "Can I help you?" "My name is Jennifer," the woman said, offering a handshake. "I'm Sophia's caseworker. I've been assigned to help her with her transition back into society now that she's free of her family's control." Sophia's name caught Michael's attention. He stepped aside, motioning for Jennifer to come in. "I didn't know Sophia had a caseworker," he said, his curiosity piqued. Jennifer entered the living room and sat down carefully. "She's been through a lot. A lot of people don't know what it's like to be in a situation like hers. Abandoned, isolated, with nowhere to go. But the state is starting to recognize her case, and they want to offer her some support, therapy, job training, things like that." Michael sat down across from her, his heart heavy with the realization that, despite all his efforts to help her, there were still systems in place that Sophia needed to navigate. "I understand, but Sophia has been through enough. I just want to make sure she's not pushed into anything she's not ready for." Jennifer nodded, understanding the concern in his voice. Of course. I'm not here to force anything on her. I'm just here to offer the resources she may need when she's ready. But I do think it might be time to talk about what's next for her. She's not just going to be okay on her own, no matter how strong she is. Michael sat back in his chair, his mind whirling. He didn't want to see Sophia pushed into something she wasn't ready for, but he also knew that what Jennifer was offering might be the key to her healing. I'll talk to her, Michael said, his voice steady. But I need you to understand. She's been through hell, and she needs time. I won't let her be rushed into anything. Jennifer gave him a soft smile. I understand completely. I'm just here to help when she's ready. No pressure. Michael thanked her and watched as she left, her presence lingering in the air like a subtle reminder that, despite everything he had done, there were still layers of bureaucracy and healing that Sophia needed to face. Later that evening, as the night settled in, Michael found Sophia sitting in the living room, her hands folded in her lap as she stared out the window. Emily had already gone to bed, and the house was quiet. Michael sat down next to her, offering a small smile. How are you feeling? Sophia turned to him, her face somber. I don't know. It feels like everything is just too much sometimes. I'm glad I don't have to go back to my family, but there's still so much I don't know how to handle. Michael nodded, his heart aching for her. He understood that this wasn't a simple fix. It wasn't just about finding a place to stay or getting away from her brother. It was about rebuilding a life from the ground up. A life that had been torn apart by neglect and abandonment. I spoke with someone today, Michael said, his voice gentle. Her name is Jennifer. She's a caseworker assigned to help you with your transition. Sophia didn't react at first. She just sat there, her eyes fixed on the window, as if she were seeing something far beyond it. What did she say? Sophia asked quietly, her voice uncertain. She said that there are resources available for you, Michael explained. Therapy, job training, support to help you get back on your feet. It's not going to be easy, but it's there for you if you want it. Sophia was silent for a long moment. Michael could see the struggle in her eyes. She wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. I'm scared, Michael, she finally whispered. What if I'm not strong enough to face all of this? What if I'm just broken? Michael placed a hand on her shoulder, giving her a reassuring squeeze. You're not broken, Sophia. You've been through more than most people will ever experience, and you're still here. You're stronger than you think, and I'll be here to help you through it all. Sophia looked at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty, but also a flicker of hope. Do you really think I can get through this? Michael nodded, his voice steady. I know you can. And I'll be here every step of the way. Sophia's eyes glistened with tears as she allowed herself to let go of the weight she had been carrying. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could start over. The days following Jennifer's visit were filled with a quiet determination. Sophia started to open up more, taking small steps toward healing, though it wasn't without its challenges. She began attending therapy, hesitant at first but gradually warming to the idea of working through her trauma. Michael accompanied her to the sessions, always there to offer support, though he understood that this was her journey to walk. Emily, too, began to notice the change in Sophia. She would help her set up for dinner, even offering to assist Sophia with things like stretching her legs or helping her walk from room to room. Emily's innocence and kindness had a way of drawing Sophia out, making her feel less alone. Sophia found herself laughing more, sharing stories about the world before her accident, and slowly, she was starting to reclaim parts of herself that had been buried beneath the weight of her past. One evening, after dinner, Michael sat with Sophia on the couch. A rare moment of calm after a long day. Emily had gone to bed, and the house was quiet. Sophia looked at Michael, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Michael," she began, her voice quieter than usual. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About you, about Emily, and about my future. I don't know where I would be right now if it weren't for you." Michael smiled gently, his eyes meeting hers. "You don't need to thank me. I just did what anyone would do. I couldn't just leave you out there. You're family now, Sophia." Sophia's eyes filled with unshed tears, but this time they were different. They weren't tears of despair. They were tears of gratitude. "I've never had someone say that to me. I've never had someone stick by me like you have. I don't know how to thank you for that." "You don't need to," Michael said, his voice soft. "You've already done more than enough just by letting me in." Sophia smiled, her face glowing with a mixture of relief and hope. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was on the right path. There were still days when the memories of her past haunted her, and there would always be moments of doubt. But she wasn't facing them alone anymore. The next morning, after breakfast, Michael and Sophia sat down together at the kitchen table. There was an energy in the air that hadn't been there before, an unspoken understanding that the future, whatever it might hold, was within their reach. "I want to try, Michael," Sophia said, her voice strong and steady. "I want to rebuild my life. I want to learn how to stand on my own 2 feet again, not just physically, but emotionally. I don't want to keep running from my past anymore." Michael nodded, proud of her. "And you will. But remember, you don't have to do it alone. I'm here. And Emily is here. We're in this together." Sophia took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. She had spent so long in darkness, afraid to take the first step forward, but now she could see the light. The life she had once dreamed of, a life of freedom, healing, and hope, was no longer out of reach. It was just beginning. As she looked out the window, watching the sunlight break through the clouds, Sophia felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had a long way to go, but for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of what the future might bring. She was ready to face it, step by step, knowing that she had people by her side who cared for her. Months passed, and Sophia's journey of healing continued. She became more independent, though the road wasn't always easy. There were setbacks, of course, but with Michael and Emily's unwavering support, she learned to navigate the challenges that came her way. Sophia eventually found work, starting small, but it was a start. With the help of the resources Jennifer had connected her with, she enrolled in job training, learned new skills, and found a sense of purpose she hadn't had in years. Slowly, the pieces of her life began to fall back into place. One evening, as the sun set outside, Michael, Sophia, and Emily sat together on the porch, laughing over dinner. Sophia looked around at her new family, her heart full. "I'm so grateful for you both," she said, her voice warm with sincerity. "You've given me something I never thought I'd have again, hope." Michael smiled, reaching over to squeeze her hand. "And you've given us something too, Sophia. You've reminded us that family isn't just about blood. It's about who's there for you when you need it the most." Sophia nodded, her eyes shining. "I don't think I'll ever be able to repay you, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the person you've shown me I can be." Michael looked out at the horizon, a sense of contentment washing over him. He had given Sophia a chance, and in doing so, he had found something he hadn't even known he was missing. A sense of purpose that came not from saving someone, but from walking alongside them as they rebuilt their life. And together, as a family, they would face whatever came next.